paid attendance crossed the 70 million mark for the first time in over 5 years. Congratulations on that. What do you attribute that to?
I think a big piece of it was the rule changes this year. We think it restored baseball to closer to its best form, more action, less dead time. But there are other things too. You know, a balanced schedule gives more variety of opponents. When you play 81 home games, that variety is important. And then, what you're seeing right now, the playoff format, more teams in the hunt in September really helps, really helps.
And, you love the idea here, Rob, and that's something that we need to get to. You got Arizona in, you got Miami in, Tampa in, Milwaukee in, the Twins. You have a lot of teams that have not spent an exorbitant amount of money, while you have the Yankees, the Mets, the Padres, teams with the big payrolls did not make the playoffs this year. Aberration? Let me get your thoughts on that. Go ahead.
Well, I don't know if it's an aberration. We'll see. I think that the one point that's absolutely clear, our game right now is blessed with an influx of young talent over the last 5 years, unlike anything we've seen. And people are winning with young talent. That's the way people are winning, and you're seeing the product of that on the field right now. I mean, you missed Baltimore, maybe the best example.
Perfect example, right?
Yeah.
Commissioner, first of all, honored to have you here. Thank you so much for being here. I want to revisit the rules, some of the rules that you implemented. You're talking about a pitch time, a defensive shift, bigger bases for crying out loud. You've got a situation where there's more stolen bases, you have more run production, more home runs, more everything. And it's lent, as far as I'm concerned, the sport of baseball has leaned towards ingratiating itself with that younger audience. I think that you've done a phenomenal job. I was very supportive of the rule changes that you wanted implemented. You took a lot of heat from a lot of people in the sport that were very reluctant for these changes to take place. Sitting here now, knowing that attendance is up, the game, the amount of time, the length of time on the game has shrunk by about 25 minutes or so. Right. All of these things that have transpired, how are you feeling right now, considering the heat that you were taking because you wanted these changes, because obviously you ended up being right?
You know, heat is part of this job or any commissioner's job. I don't worry about that too much. We feel really good about the way the rule changes worked out. And I think the most important thing is this. We didn't have some vision that was based on what we thought about the game. We did fundamental research with our fans, and we think the changes were well received because we listened to them and tried to give them the kind of game they wanted to see on the field.
And you love the format of this wild card. We give ESPN the best of three. A lot of people think maybe, add a best of five and make it a little longer. Best of three is fine. Probably a little better than a knockout that we used to have. You got to win 2 games, and you get everybody get the appetite whetted for the divisional series. This is a great week in baseball.
Yeah, I think that, it's interesting. You talk about change, and there's been so much talk about change. I think the success and the popularity of the wild card round has been based on tradition. And what I mean by that is we're playing 3-game series the way baseball's always played, right? I mean, that's what you do all year long. It's not a game that's decided one and done. And I think given teams that get through 162-game schedule, qualify for the playoffs, they ought to at least get that 3-game series for a chance to prove themselves.
I'm looking at a guy like Acuna in Atlanta and the kind of year that he's been having. He's been absolutely sensational. When these rule changes were implemented, did you foreshadow or did you see this kind of success happening, not just with him, but a lot of the young players in the league?
We had a pretty good feel for what was going to happen with the rule changes because we had played 8,000 games with these rules in the minor leagues.
Got it.
And, I understand, maybe better than anyone except players, that the major leagues are different. But the fact of the matter is the quantitative outcomes that we saw on the field were right in line with what we saw in the minor leagues. And that gives you more confidence about making a change, right? You feel more comfortable that you know what's going to happen.
And thank goodness you didn't change it for the postseason. Leave it alone. I know you were rumored about, I know the Players Association, they had 5 or 6 seconds. If you play one rule in the regular season,
that's right.
Leave it alone in the postseason.
That was the deciding factor, I think. To play one way all year and change it doesn't make sense. But, the other interesting number is during the year, on the 15-second clock, the average pitch was thrown with 6 seconds left. And on the 20-second clock, it was thrown with 8 seconds left.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they weren't, the whole time was not even getting used. And look, last night, you talk about fan friendly.
Oh,
We had 4 games. We were done at 10:28 last night.
that
you know?
when the game was over 10:28.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really an improvement.
Let me throw this at you real quick. Can I
Sure,
see?
please.
Not interrupt. Only 19,000 in Tampa for a playoff game.
Yeah.
Now you're getting a new stadium built there in St. Pete, and I know you're 3 o'clock. I don't want to hear about the time. It's a playoff game, and that's a 98-win team. That's not a team that snuck in. That's a big-time team, Rob. You had to be a little disappointed.
You know, one thing I don't like about you is you take my first answer away in the question. I mean, I was gonna say game time. You're killing me. But look, it has been a struggle there for Tampa, and I do think it's a shame. That organization has done a phenomenal job in terms of putting a competitive product on the field year after year. This is not some fluky thing. It happened once. I will say, I was in the ballpark in Tampa yesterday. I will say the fans that were in the ballpark were pretty passionate. Yeah.
New York City, the Mecca. I mean, you live
Very,
here.
Stephen A.
I live here. We understand it's the Big Apple, and neither team is in the postseason. This is breaking my heart.
I understand that a lot of New Yorkers feel that way. The fact of the matter is, we got 30 markets. Everybody has to have a chance to compete. We do have some bigger markets, Los Angeles being premier among them, that made the postseason. And again, I do believe variety is a good thing for our sport. You look at other sports, they have that same kind of mix.
It's rough in New York across the board, okay? Take it from a Giants fan.
Yeah.
What's going on with the Jets?
Yeah.
It's not just in baseball. I'm curious of any October storylines that you're looking forward to.
I think that for me, the youth movement is really the biggest story in baseball. And I think however well these young teams play all year long, I think it's a really interesting story as to how they perform when you have the pressure and the spotlight of the postseason. We have a couple of really interesting young teams, and it'll be really interesting to see if they hold.
Oh, we love it. I love the reseeding thing.
I have heard you on this.
Have you thought? The NFL does it.
Yeah, I
The
know.
best record plays the worst record after the first round. Has baseball thought about that?
Yeah, we talked about reseeding. I think the important thing for us, when you have a regular season like ours, where you're playing 162 games, divisional play has to matter, okay? And, the reseeding that you might do is not always the correct answer. So, for example, if you have a really tough division, the division winner there might not have as good a record as somebody in a different division, but they fought it out and they won that division. Part of the excitement that helps us keep fans going all season long is that division matters.
So you want to guarantee them the 3 seed?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like the regular umpire behind home plate. I'm not a big believer in a robotic umpire. I know that at one point you were. I'm not sure where you stand on that. But we saw some shaky umpiring here late. Angel Hernandez with Harper at third base. I want you to mention that. The umpire last week in the Met game threw out Berger, which was not right in a pennant race. I mean, you like to see a little decency, take the energy off and keep the guy in the game. Sometimes, fans scream and yell about the umpiring all the time. What's your feeling about the status of the game right now as we move into this postseason?
Look, umpiring, constant challenge. I go around, I meet privately with the players on each team over the course of the season. You get a pretty good feel in those meetings what they think about umpiring. I try to pay real attention to it. The input, it's not the I'm annoyed because something happened last night thing. It's more of a conversation about what they're seeing over time. I think it's an area we need to continue to strive to improve. I remain committed. I don't like robotic because I think it gives the wrong impression. There's always going to be an umpire behind home plate. But I continue to believe that the ABS system, we can use technology to improve the quality of the umpiring without losing the human element.
So you think you could do both with the ball strike?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're testing two different ways in the minor leagues right now. One where every pitch is delivered in an earpiece and the umpire just makes the call.
Oh, really?
Okay. The second one is a challenge system. The pitcher, the catcher, or the hitter can challenge. If you're right, if you're right, you keep your challenge. The amazing thing about it, because the umpire wears the earpiece, actually the first time I saw it in a minor league game, I was with Raul Ibanez, and we're sitting down in Tampa watching this minor league game, and he says, "What'd you think about the challenge?" I said, "What challenge?" I missed it. It takes like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Subtle.
Literally takes like 2 seconds. I think talking to players, and I take this very seriously, they feel like the challenge system preserves that human element behind the plate better, that it is consistent with where we started on instant replay, which is fix the big miss.